is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we have my first book unhaul of 2020. So in December of 2019, so basically last month, I rearranged all of my bookshelves. This was mainly because I have a son, which I'm sure people that have been watching my channel for a while now know, and it got to the point where we have Leon's parents in, and I figured it was the perfect time to actually get these bookshelves attached to the wall so they are not gonna move. Like, I can't move this even a centimeter. So basically what I did is I took everything down. We got these all hooked up nice and neat so nothing is going to happen, and then I put the books back on the shelves. But I also had to take a good hard look at my TBR especially, because I just have so many books on here that I really wanted to check and ask myself, are these books that I'm actually going to read? There are also other books here that I have read previously and I just don't really see myself reading them again. So I am going to go through all of the book unhaul I have here. I have quite a few books in a stack over here, but I also have books that I'm going to go through first, I believe, that I've already gotten rid of. I had some friends come over and they actually went through this stack and basically picked out all the books that they wanted. So I'm just going to insert the picture for those like here. That way you guys can still see what I was getting rid of. But those have already been absconded away. And so we're just going to jump into this because I don't want to ramble too much more right now. I will give a small brief explanation of why I'm getting rid of these if I can. Otherwise, just know I really had to cut down on the books that I have. I still have over 1,200 books on these shelves that I'm keeping, but I really wanted to take a look and make sure that I was getting rid of stuff that I knew I wasn't wanting to read in this, you know, new year, new decade. So like I said, let's get into it. So first we have Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin O'Leary Sains. This is a book that I think I gave like a 3.5 stars to a couple years ago, at least 2 to 3 years ago, and it was good. It's just not something that I ever foresee myself reading again, and so when somebody else wanted to read it, obviously I passed it on to a new home. Spindlefire by Alexa Hillier. This is the first in a fantasy series that I did try reading a few years ago and it just never fully captured my interest, so that's why I was getting rid of it. We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. This is, again, same sort of thing. It's a fantasy that I just tried to get into, didn't really capture my attention, and somebody else wanted to read it. Artemis by Andy Weir. This is an adult sci-fi book that I picked up like basically as soon as it came out because I had heard good things about The Martian. However, then I started to hear some not so good things about Artemis, and it was just one of those things where the writing didn't really capture my attention, so I passed it on. The Crown's Game and The Crown's Fate by Evelyn Skye. I picked it up, and after a while, I don't know exactly when it started happening, but I started feeling myself not as interested in this book as I thought I was going to be, and each time I do an unhaul, I would read the synopsis of it, and it got to the point where this time I just knew I was not going to be reading it. The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. I know I have a best friend who's going to basically hate me for this, but I could not get into this one either, and I just don't foresee myself trying again, so I did pass it on. Lumberjanes Volume 1 and Lumberjanes Volume 2 by Noelle Stevenson. These are 2 volumes in a graphic novel YA sort of series that I did really enjoy when I first read them. However, I'm so far behind now and I just don't see myself picking up the rest of the series that I decided somebody else can get more enjoyment out of them. Escape Journey Volume 1 by Tanaka Ogoretsu. This is the first volume in a boys love manga. I did read it. I semi-enjoyed it. They had some good things and some bad things about it. And again, I don't think I'm going to actually continue on with the series. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green and Paper Towns by John Green. This is actually the original hardcover version of Paper Towns before they changed the cover, but I like John Green well enough, especially when I first read these books. However, I just don't see myself rereading them, and so I think I'm getting rid of all of my John Green books that I currently own. City of Dark Magic by Magnus Flight. This is the first book in, I think, another like fantasy series. I did purchase it on bargain a few years ago, and it's one of those ones that, again, every single time I do an unhaul, I read the description and it's just not catching my attention as much as it did when I first purchased it. Amber and Dusk by Lyra Celine. This is a book that came in a book box. It's a fantasy book, and it just is one of those ones that, again, the summary didn't fully capture my attention after I've had it for a while, and so I passed it on. Jacoby, Beastly Bones, Ghostly Echoes, and The Dire King by William Ritter. Now, this is a series that is sort of like a mixture of Sherlock Holmes and fantasy sort of creatures, sort of. There's also ghosts and stuff, paranormal aspects to it. I actually really did enjoy these books, especially the first three. However, I don't see myself reading them again, and I don't have room on my shelf, so even though I really did enjoy this series, I did pass it on to somebody else who I know has been getting really into Sherlock Holmes lately, and also likes fantasy paranormal books, so hopefully they really enjoyed these ones. Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. This is another one that came in a book box, and again, after having it on my shelves for, I think it's been at least a year, I just don't really see myself reading it. Bloodleaf by Crystal Smith, another one that came in a book box that I just don't really see myself reading. However, the second book also doesn't have the right cover. Like, the second book has what I personally feel like is a much more beautiful, prettier cover, and so even if I did read this first one, I'm not too sure how I feel about the cover change. Cinder, Scarlet, and Cress by Marissa Meyer. Now, I've read the first two books of this series and really enjoyed them. I did not get to Cress yet, and I don't even own Winter. My reason for getting rid of these books is they have new covers coming out in February, and I am completely on board with them, and so the fact that I would have to, again, buy Winter is now sort of an excuse that I'm just gonna end up probably getting all four of them in the new pretty covers. I am just so excited for them, so I passed on my old versions to someone else. And then we also have Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This one is one that I have not read, and it just, I don't know, doesn't really seem like one that I really want to get into. I don't know if it's because it's more of like a fantasy than a sci-fi, but I passed this on to the same person. And then I had a collection of some old Sherlock Holmes, I think they were from like Book of the Month from like forever ago. I have the Sherlock Holmes books that have like the BBC Sherlock covers, and I just had an extra set of Sherlock Holmes books that I didn't necessarily need, so I kept the BBC versions and passed on those other ones to someone else. Now, those are all the books that have already been claimed. We still have like 2/3 to 3/4 of this list left over here to get through, and I don't know for sure what I'm going to be doing with these, probably trying to sell them secondhand or then donate them, but hopefully by the time this video goes up, I know what I'm doing with them, because I don't want them to sit around my house much longer. So we're just going to jump into this pile over here now. We have The Rowan by Anne McCaffrey. This is a book I picked up secondhand, and at first it seemed sort of interesting, but it is an older sci-fi book that just doesn't really capture my attention anymore, so even though it is an older one in really good condition, I just don't think I'm going to get around to reading it. The Better Part of Darkness by Kelly Gay. This one I think is a paranormal or urban fantasy book. Again, it's just not capturing my attention as much as it could, and this is another one that I purchased secondhand for not very much, so I don't feel as bad about getting rid of it. We have Horns by Joe Hill. I watched the movie because it was on Netflix earlier in 2019, like summer or fall, and liked it well enough, and I'm sure the book is better, but for such a thick mass market, and I'm not too sure how I actually will feel about it, I'm just gonna pass this on. We have Venom by Jennifer Estep. This is the third book, I believe, in this series. I did keep the first book that I found secondhand. However, this one does have a little bit of spine crackage, and I don't know how I'm actually going to enjoy this series yet. So I'm going to get rid of the third one for now, and if I eventually pick up the first one and enjoy it, I'll then pick up the second and third and continue on with the series that way. The Forever King by Molly Cochran and Warren Murphy. I was on a very, very big King Arthur kick a few years ago, and this is one that I picked up secondhand. But now looking at this one, especially since I think this is like a 10-year-old Arthur in, like, is this supposed to be in modern day? I don't know. It doesn't really seem as much up my alley, and so I'm gonna be getting rid of it. Then we have The Mask of Loki by Roger Zelazny and Thomas T. Thomas. Very interesting. I picked this up who knows when because it had Loki in the title. Again, not only was I in a major King Arthur kick eventually, I was also into Norse mythology, which I still do feel like I'm into that quite a little bit more than the King Arthur stuff. But I read the back. This is nowhere near, from what I understand, about Norse mythology. So I don't know what I thought it was originally, but it's not. Then we have Thin Air and Gale Force. These are both by Rachel Kane. This is actually book 6 and I think book 7 in the Weather Wardens series. I read the first Weather Wardens book last year or the year before. All of my timing is not really coming together in the right way right now. I think it was last year, and it was okay. I love some of Rachel Kane's work. And I just don't know if it's this series or if it was the first book, because I think this is one of her older books than the ones that I was used to reading. But it also only had like 4 chapters, like each chapter was like 70 something pages, and so it was really, really hard for me personally to read and figure out a good stopping point when I needed to put it down. But I did keep, I think, the second and third book in the series, just in case I do want to continue on. But I don't have book 4, and this is, or 5 I think, and this is 6 and 7. So we're gonna get rid of these ones and then see what happens once I continue on with the earlier books. Then we have Genius Squad and Evil Genius by Katherine Jinks. I read Evil Genius years and years and years ago, and I remember really, really enjoying it and picking up the second one not too long after, but it's been at least, I want to say, 5 years since I read the first one. And while I remember really, really enjoying it, I just don't think I'm going to reread this one to read this with how long these actually are. This was a series about a kid that, I think they're geniuses, but they end up like on a villain sort of track in life instead of like a hero track. I don't fully know. And I do believe these are adult fantasy, I think? Sci-fi? I actually don't know for sure what they're considered. Even one of the reviews on the back, it says, Cadel rides right up there with Artemis Fowl as a sympathetic anti-villain. I loved Artemis Fowl. I do remember really, really enjoying this book, but I just really, if I'm really, really honest with myself, which is what I was trying to do with this book Unhaul, I am not going to get to these in who knows when. Like, it's gonna be another few years probably before I actually pick these up, so I don't think I have the space for them on my shelves right now. We have Of Masks and Martyrs by Christopher Golden. This is a book that I again picked up secondhand, but I think I picked it up not really realizing it was like the third book in the series. I don't own the first 2, and because I don't fully know when I'm gonna pick it up, so I'm gonna get rid of it for now. We have Death Dream by Ben Bova. This is another one that I picked up secondhand. I don't feel like I'm gonna be really reading it. It has something to do with cyber world, like a VR amusement park. You can live out your wildest fantasies, and it just not something that's really catching my eye right now. Destiny Kills by Carrie Arthur. This is another sort of paranormal fantasy sort of book. I'm very willing to try Carrie Arthur, but this one just doesn't really seem like something that's catching my eye anymore. Desire Calls, Danger Lurks, but Destiny Kills. Destiny McCree wakes up beside a dead man on an Oregon beach. She knows only this: she has to keep moving, keep searching, and keep one step ahead of the forces that have been pursuing her from the heart of Scotland to this isolated spot. I don't know, it's just not really catching my eye right now. Taliesin, Merlin, and Arthur, all by Stephen R. Lawhead. This is another thing that I picked up because of my King Arthur days. I picked it up secondhand. It's a very, seems like, long fantasy series. Is this the one though that's modern day? No, I think the other one that I was talking about was modern day. I don't know what it is with me purchasing series and then just not really wanting to read them anymore. It was a time of legend when the last shadows of the mighty Roman conqueror faded from the captured Isle of Britain, while across a vast sea, bloody war shattered a peace that had flourished for 2,000 years in the doomed kingdom of Atlantis. I don't know. It's just not really picking it up for me. Also, these are just not the best looking covers. I mean, I guess I can understand for like an older fantasy series, but they're all like old looking men and it just doesn't really do it for me. So yeah, we're getting rid of these. Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rolls. This, I'm sure most people know what this is. I think I read this in school sometime and I've seen the movie. I don't really feel like keeping a book that makes you feel sad on my shelves right now. I mean, I know I have some other ones that can also make me cry, but this one, it's just one of those classic, I guess, kids books. I don't know if it's necessarily considered a kid's book, but like we definitely read it like in late elementary school or junior high and watched the movie and like it makes you cry. I don't want to keep it. Season of Passage, The Cold One, and Falling by Christopher Pike. This one, I don't know if it's a newer-ish. It's not very new. I've had this for years. Newer-ish one than these ones are not, but these are three Christopher Pike books that I have read that are, I think, his adult ones, because he's also done some like teen YA horror sort of stuff that I remember reading. They were okay. I just don't think I'm ever going to read them again, and I'm trying to read some more of his old backlist, especially with the YA teen titles. Some have been pretty okay, some have been a little bit problematic for today's time period, and I've not wanted to read anymore. So it just really depends, but I'm gonna get rid of these ones. We also have Primary Suspect by Laura Scott. This was a free gift that I received at Barnes & Noble a few months ago for buying a romance book, so I don't know what that was about, but this is a like suspenseful romance. It is very short, but I did not pick it out myself, and I don't think I'm ever going to get to this. We have Fallen Collection 1, because it has Fallen and Leviathan, as well as Collection 2, which is Airy and Reckoning. These are all by Thomas E. Sinagowski. I don't think I'm ever gonna read these. I purchased these again a few years ago. They're about like fallen angels. I just don't really think that's my thing anymore, and so I'm gonna be getting rid of these. And I told you, I'm getting rid of my John Green stuff. We have Let It Snow, which actually I really enjoyed the movie on Netflix, as well as Looking for Alaska by John Green. Again, these are ones that I have read. I don't think I'm gonna read them again, and I don't really need them on my shelves anymore. Dead Connection by Charlie Price. This is one that I'm pretty sure I have read before, but it was like right out of high school times, maybe college, and I do not remember a single thing about this, so I was keeping it as a possible reread, but I have put it off for like 10 years. I don't think it's gonna happen. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I have come to the conclusion, I don't think I jive with the writing style, how slow it is to start, and I know some people really enjoy this book, but again, I've had this for seven years. I don't think I'm getting to it. Deadline by Chris Crutcher. This is the way it goes. Deadline by Chris Crutcher. This is another one that I've had like Dead Connection, where I've just had it for years and years and years. I am pretty sure I have read it before, but I don't remember a single thing about it, and I don't think I'm ever going to get to it. Here's another Sherlock Holmes book that I didn't need, A Study in Scarlet and the Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Again, like I said, I have versions of these that I just love the covers of more. I think I went through a big Sherlock Holmes phase where I just basically collected any edition that looked cool to me, and I don't have room for that on my shelves, so I am getting rid of this one as well. We have Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. This is obviously a YA sci-fi sort of book, and it has been very polarizing, and because of that, I'm not too sure if I would actually enjoy it. I think I tried reading the first couple of chapters, you know, at least a year ago, and also they changed the second cover based on the paperback cover. Again, it's just putting me off of it, and so I just don't think I'm gonna read it. Then we have Annalise Rising by Brenda Drake. It came in an unplugged book box like last year or the year before, and I just don't think I'm gonna get to it. I don't know what it's about. Something about a list of names that a stranger gives this main character before he dies, and her name's on it, and there's a god of death. I don't know. I don't know. The cover also feels like some of the covers that you get with like self-published books. It's not technically, it's an entangled teen book, but I don't know, it feels more like a self-published book, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just very, very picky with books, especially the ones that are by indie authors. Like, I have some ones that I've really, really loved, but I don't want to read it. Angel's Prophecy by Kira Shea. This one is a self-published book, and again, it has the exact same feel as the other one. This one I picked up a while ago, and I just don't really feel like I'm going to get to it. This is another one that has angels, or the children of angels. There's heaven and hell out to kill this main character. I don't know, it felt a little bit like Shadowhunters, but at the same time, it has the angel aspect in it too, and I'm just not really into that right now. I'm gonna be getting rid of this one. The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. This one I believe is an adult literary fiction. I don't know for sure. I purchased it, I think a couple years ago because it had library in the title, but again, I just don't think I'm actually gonna get to it. Hero by Perry Moore. This one is one that I have read. I did enjoy it when I read it. I just don't think I'm gonna read it again. This one I do believe is our main character is, I think he's specifically gay, but it is LGBTQ, and there's superheroes, and I do think it's supposed to be like an allegory for coming out. Again, I enjoyed it well enough. I know there's some people that did not like this one very much, but I'm just never gonna read it again, so it is gonna go to a better home. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This one's actually a Waterstones edition, and it's signed, so it's like super, super cool. However, I don't know, there's just been something putting me off about this series. Some people really, really enjoy it. I don't think I'm ever gonna read it. I know there's a lot of hype surrounding it. It is very, very gorgeous, but something is putting me off of this book, and I feel bad about it, but I don't think I'm ever gonna actually read it. Black City by Elizabeth Richards. This is another book that I've had for a while. I do believe it's a dystopian, maybe not a dystopian, a fantasy sort of thing. Natalie, a human and the daughter of a government official, is still reeling from her father's murder by a crazed Darkling. And there is a half-blood Darkling boy. I don't know. It's another one of those ones that I've had for a while, and it's just not really something that is appealing to the current taste that I have. Team Human by Justine Larbalester and Sarah Reese Brennan. This one I tried to read a couple months ago for some sort of reading challenge that I was trying to do for myself. I think it was November. I did get like 1 or 2 chapters in, and a lot of it was very early YA, vampire-y sort of things. Apparently our main character's best friend is like obsessed with vampires. Like, that's all she cares about. If a vampire like offered to date her and turn her into a vampire, she'd be like gung-ho. And the main character was also sort of like not that type of girl. Dialogue and thoughts, like, it was just very tropey and not the tropes that I like, so I just really don't think I'm going to continue on with this one. We have Joyland by Stephen King. I like Stephen King and everything, but this is one of the more thriller, real-life mystery sort of things. Hard case crime. I do not enjoy those really, so I'm going to be getting rid of this one. We have The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. This is another fantasy one that came in a book box that I just don't think I'm ever going to read. It's not something that really is interesting to me, and so I'm going to pass this on. Same with The Bird and the Blade by Megan Bannon. This is another fantasy type of story. This one has tones of Asian fantasy, and I would really enjoy that most of the time. However, this is like historical fiction Asian fantasy, and I do not really enjoy historical books, so that is the main reason I'm going to be getting rid of this one. Then we have Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpretto. This is another same sort of thing. Came in a book box. It's a fantasy book. It is not fantasy stuff, at least from the summary, that is interesting to me, and so I'm going to pass it on. Then we have The Unnaturalists by Tiffany Trent. This is a book I picked up a few years ago, and that was before I realized I don't like steampunk sort of books, and this is definitely up that Victorian steampunk alley, and so I'm not going to actually be reading this. Here's another one by John Green. We have An Abundance of Catherines that I apparently got for like $4. I want to say this was around high school. Again, I'm just getting rid of all the John Green books that I know I'm not going to be rereading. Keeping in mind for that though, I did keep Will Grayson, Will Grayson. I really enjoyed that one, and I do see myself potentially rereading that one. Then we also have Shadow Cry. and Black Watch by Jenna Burtonshaw. This is a fantasy series that I think I only have the first 2 books. I got these off Book Outlet a few years ago, and it's just not something I really foresee myself reading anymore, so we're getting rid of them. The Exile by C.T. Adams. This is an adult urban fantasy, apparently has fae, but again, it's not one that I've been drawn to anytime lately. It's just been sitting on the shelves, so. Ghost Talkers by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is a book that had something to do with our main character being able to talk to ghosts. Yeah, our main character can talk to ghosts, is a medium. It sounded very, very intriguing. However, it is set during World War I, which makes it a war book that I don't really enjoy, and a historical book. I think I knew that when I picked it up, but I don't think I realized how much I did not want to read those compared to how much I did want to read about a medium in the Spirit Corps. So yeah, I'm probably not going to read this. The Teeth in the Mist by Dawn Kurtagich. This is a book that I did read last year. I gave it like 3 stars. It was okay, but it's not something that I am going to ever reread again because it's not like a favorite book. So we're getting rid of this one. It doesn't need to be on my shelves. The Fireman by Joe Hill. This one is a huge fat book that I just don't see myself reading anymore. I think part of it is because it is, I guess, supposed to be sort of a horror. It's one of his first ones, and I did read some books by Joe Hill. None of the more recent ones. Like, I probably should pick up some of the more recent ones. But basically it's just about a disease, a plague that is, you know, highly contagious, and it causes people to burst into flames, hence the fireman. It just doesn't really fully seem like something that I want to read about, even though I am totally willing to read other books by Joe Hill, because I read Heart-Shaped Box, which I think is one of the first ones he did, and I did enjoy that one. I don't think I even own that anymore, though. I don't know what happened to that, but I don't think I'm going to read this one. Then we have This Darkness Mine by Mindy McGinnis. This is one of those books that I have heard not so good things about, but also I think I've been spoiled for, and so because of that, I don't really see myself reading it. We also have Thornjack by Catherine Harbour. I actually have the whole trilogy in paperback as well. I just really liked this cover a lot because the paperback one has like a girl's face on it, but I don't think I'm really going to be buying the rest of the series in hardcover because it seems hard to find the second 2 in it. So I am going to get rid of this one that I don't necessarily need. I have one of these and the other 2. Then the last books that I have here are actually from my Try a Chapter video that I posted right before this one, so I will leave that linked down below as well, just in case you want to look at that one. But these are the ones that obviously did not make the cut for me wanting to keep them. We have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, The Diviners by Libba Bray, Replica by Lauren Oliver, and A World Without You by Beth Revis. So those are all of the books that I'm getting rid of, and hopefully this is not a super long video. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. I usually do a couple unhauls throughout the year just to make sure I'm keeping up with everything that I am reading and switching out. If you would like to see more of this kind of stuff, you can subscribe to my channel. I do have videos up Mondays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!